Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for the optional office hours for day 2 of our annual meeting. This is an opportunity for you to ask questions of your state policy advisors regarding your grant requirements, reporting, and other administrative questions you have. So today's just really for you. We don't have a script or a full presentation. There are a couple things we'll put in the chat along the way, but I will open it up for questions. If anyone on the line right now has questions, you can either unmute or put questions in the chat. So I will open it up. Does anybody have questions that they'd like to ask your state policy advisor?
Hey, Brittany, I think as we're waiting for questions, and if there aren't any, we may provide some background and some of the questions we've been asked in the past, but maybe I'll just go around and let the state policy advisors introduce themselves. I'll quickly introduce myself. I think most of those who are on the call were probably in yesterday's session, so they may know me from that. My name is John Markovic. I'm a senior policy advisor at BJA, and I reside on the policy side of our organization, which means that while I oversee the body-worn camera policy and implementation program grant, from the substantive side, I determine what the solicitation is going to look like every year. I oversee the peer review process, the competitive grant process, and manage the TTA providers, as well as run our kind of companion program for small, rural, and tribal agencies, which is micro grant program. On the program side are the state policy advisors. So we have with us today Gerardo Velasquez, Wei White, and Gail Farquhar, who are assigned to individual states. So I'm going to let them go ahead and introduce themselves and mention which states they cover. So if you haven't had contact with them already, you'll know who your state policy advisor is, generally based on the state. There may be a few exceptions to that, but with that, I'll hand it over to Gerardo to introduce himself.
Okay, thanks. I was talking to myself there. Hi, my name is Gerardo Velasquez. I'm with BJA. I've been with BJA for 23 years and am the co-lead for the body-worn camera program. I handle the states of that start with H all the way to P, I think, and we can confirm that later, John. And also I handle JAG programs are in the state of Florida and Puerto Rico.
That is correct. Florida and H through P. Yeah. Thanks, Gerardo. Wei?
Hi, my name is Wei White. I actually just recently joined BJA in March. So before that, I was supporting BJA on the contractor side, as well as the umbrella agency Office of Justice Programs. Before taking desk work, I was doing field work as a parole and probation officer for the state of Maryland. So I primarily oversee JAG, or the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grants, and some BWC grants as well. And I believe I'll have to confirm with you all later as well, but I think I have mainly some California ones and Colorado BWC grants.
Your A through D plus Georgia for 2023 or 2022 grantees. There's some variation for earlier grantees. Gail, are you on the call?
Hello, this is Gail.
Hi, Gail.
My name is Gail Farquhar. I've been with BJ for quite a while, and I handle the body-worn cameras in the latter part of the alphabet. And I'm new to the program, but I'm enjoying myself in working with John. So thank you for having me on board this morning.
Just to add in the presentation that the Office of Chief Financial Officer will be presenting later today. I've inserted a slide there as a map and a listing of who the state policy advisors are by state. So we'll just reinforce what we said. I don't know, have any questions come in?
I actually have a question, if that's okay.
Sure.
My name is Tracy Robidoux. I work at the New Jersey Department of Corrections, and Mr. Velasquez is our policy advisor. So, hello.
Hi.
Hi. So what I'll say to the group is we are a multiple BWC awardee. We successfully closed out our FY19 pilot project BWC grant. We are currently in our FY21 BWC expansion project grant. And so my question is, do you know when we're going to be hearing about the FY23 award determinations?
Yeah, I can answer that question, although there may be variations. In almost all instances, those are announced at the end of this fiscal year. So those are intended to be announced in late September. So it'll be at the end of this month.
Okay, that's right. I'm aware, because the project period technically begins October 1st. There's 5 categories, so we're just hoping to hear a successful award. I also want to make Mr. Velasquez aware, we uploaded a GAM for a change in scope under our FY21 award in just grants in the portal. I just wanted to make you aware about that.
That yesterday or today, ma'am?
Okay, that's what I have to say. So I don't want to get too granular, on this, but anything you would need, you can ask. You can, email us or let us know, Angela and myself. But
no, we did review a couple yesterday. That's right. Did you submit it yesterday, or is this a new one today?
yeah, we submitted it yesterday.
Okay, and we reviewed them yesterday, and it's gone up the ladder, so you should get notifications.
Okay, that's good. So that's hopeful, but that's why I got on the call, just to make you aware of the one thing, ask the question on the other. But I will say this, from having attended yesterday, the thing that's so rewarding to me and our agency is because, we've been looking here in our grants unit at body worn cameras since 2015, meaning the area. But what was rewarding to me with everything that was presented yesterday is, the growing body of evidence, for lack of a better phrase, as, more research is done and as you guys are getting more feedback and input from the field. So it's really good to hear the expansion and the attention that's been given to body worn cameras as a whole, in terms of, from the actual environments, meaning correctional and PD, and in terms of the other areas that either have started to be presented or will be during the conference, looking at things like tagging, looking at, evidence storage, looking at how prosecutions are being handled in footage. So that's, all of those things are valuable. So anybody else that's on this call, or as a past and current grantee, take in everything you can from this conference, because the resources and the information provided is really valuable. So I just wanted to thank everybody for your time and continued efforts, and very much appreciated here in New Jersey.
Thank you.
Thanks for those kind words. And yeah, we did, and Gerardo and I did receive the change of scope modification, and maybe we'll use that as a little bit of a segue. Gerardo, maybe do you want to just talk about what the grant modifications are, both in terms of a budget modification and a change in scope modification, just for the benefit of others in the call, so they know what that entails?
Yes. Okay. Well, a change of budget modification, GAM, would be to change more than 10% of your line items in your budget. So if you're going to change more than 10%, you have to submit a budget modification. If it's under 10%, you can just send me a detailed email with what you're doing, and I can approve it and attach it to the grant file. As far as the change of scope, you may want to change different areas of the grant, and then we review it for final approval through a GAM.
Yeah, so just to add a few points to that. So on the 10% rule, you do have to submit a formal grant adjustment notification for, or GAM for grant adjustment modification. If you're changing category, if you're changing funds across categories and it's more than 10% of your total federal award. So if you had a $100,000 award, if you're moving more than $10,000, then you need to do a Form 1. If it's less than that, you're fine with the note to Urardo, a detailed email, I should say. And generally we recognize that a budget is a plan, things change, so modifications are likely to occur, and a change in scope is more about a change in how you're going to go about doing your grant. So sometimes we'll have, if I can use New Jersey as an example, they, and some other agencies sometimes change who's going to get the body worn cameras. So in the case of a correctional agency, they may decide to fund one agency, but because of changes that occurred since the beginning of the acceptance of the grant, they may decide to move those cameras to another facility for a variety of reasons. And generally, we look to make sure that essentially the change in scope is still within the spirit of the BWCPIP solicitation. And if it's a budget GAM, we make sure that it still achieves all the requirements of the Office of Justice programs in terms of being allowable expenses. And then for the body worn camera grant, we do have a stipulation for categories 1 and 2, which are agencies that are funded to procure body worn cameras, because there's a cap set on the award when you apply for the award at $2,000 per body worn camera to cover a variety of costs, not necessarily just the cost of the cameras. We hold you to that. So if you were to come in at the maximum, let's say you requested 100 cameras and you asked for $200,000, if you come back to us and later and say, well, we only want to purchase 180 cameras rather than 200, your award might be adjusted down. Your award would generally be adjusted downward to $160,000 in fairness to other agencies to keep you in line with that cap. But if you had, for instance, submitted an application saying that you were going to get 250 cameras, but only requested, I say 150 cameras and only requested $200,000, and you decided that you needed to go down in body worn cameras, you can go down as low as 100 and still stay within that initial cap of $2,000 per body worn camera. That was a lot of information I threw at you, but in essence, we hold you to that $2,000 per body worn camera cap. There may be exceptional circumstances where we might allow you to deviate from that, but that's just in fairness because when you were competing for the grant, everybody came in and was held to that cap.
We did have a general question in the chat, and I do see that Wei answered, but we had a question about, if there are other questions after today, what's the best way to get a hold of you both? And Gail, I know Wei put her contact information and phone number in. I don't know if Gerardo or Gail, you'd like to do the same?
Yeah, you can just give me a call or shoot me an email, and I usually respond pretty promptly.
Same here, and I just wanted to say that our information should be listed in Just Grants. When you go to the grant award, it should say who your grant manager is.
I'll add in the presentation this afternoon by the on procurement rules. We talk a little bit about the role of OCFO versus the state policy advisors, which lanes are which, and included in that I have the map, and Gail, Wei, and Gerardo's emails and phone numbers are included in that slide. So you'll see that this afternoon, all those slides will be available for you, a week or so after, in the next couple of weeks, after we conclude the meeting. It will be posted on the body worn camera training and technical assistance site. And I'll post a link to that momentarily.
And I see a couple folks just joined. Welcome. This is, we're here as a drop in hour, just opportunities for you all to ask questions to our state policy advisors. So I do invite you to come off mute and ask questions, or if you would like to put a question in the chat, please feel free to do so. What I'm going to put in the chat now for everybody, I know we mentioned, I think a couple minutes ago, like a grant modification. I'm going to put in the chat the instructions if you ever need to do that, where to find those. So I'm going to put that in the resource now in case anyone needs it. One of the other features that I'll put in the chat, I know this is a question that we get often from sites from the TTA perspective, is around performance measures and what we need to do. Opening session tomorrow talks about performance measures and how to do those things. So I'm going to put that, or how to report those and what's meant by the performance measures for body worn cameras. So I'm going to put that in the chat as well. There's a PDF, but again, we are going to have a full presentation on that tomorrow at noon.
Yeah, I think this will complement that presentation. Presentation tomorrow is really sort of the purpose of the performance measurement tracking, how we use that. So it won't necessarily be a how-to, but I will share a link, which I think is just the page, the landing page for a lot of the resources for Just Grants right now.
I see there is another question in the chat that I'll read for those who are more auditory. I think it's auditory learners. So I'm new to grants administration. Do you have any suggestions about where I should start best practice learning? And I see, John, you put in the justgrants.usdoj.gov. Are there other resources, John or Wei or Gail or Gerardo, that you think might be helpful for someone who's just working on grants administration?
I think the Just Grants site is a good place to start, and maybe I'll try to share my screen.
I was going to also suggest the DOJ financial guide for any general financial questions would be another good manual to keep handy. It'll answer a lot of the general questions, allowable costs, questions about how to do match, things of that nature.
So are you seeing my screen, which is learning about the Department of Justice Grants and Payment Management System?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so here, there's a variety of trainings here. So for instance, on performance management, you could learn about addressing performance management in grants. Most of these, they're still in the process, but most of these training topics have a video. So here, there's a short video on completing performance reports. These are now, I believe they're all done in Just Grants. I know there was some transition period where BWCPIP grantees were submitting sort of in the old-fashioned way, sending in PDF attachments. But now, I think last year we made the transition for BWCPIP to Just Grants. So this will help you walk through that reporting. And then similarly for other training topics, I think some of these things, most of you have already done this, award acceptance, application submission for future years, entity management, the topics, and they're usually pretty good at describing things in detail, what entity management is, who the, what the entity managers do, how those align with other roles and so forth. So I think this is the best place to go to get a start. And then the state policy advisors are always available to give you some additional assistance, particularly in and around sort of the uniqueness of the body worn camera program. Like I said, the grant adjustment modifications, the adherence to the $2,000 per body worn camera cap, which is specific to BWCPIP. So you're not going to find that in Just Grants. So we're here to help, basically.
One of the questions I just got directly chatted to me is, I see there are other categories for body worn camera grants. Would you mind explaining those slightly? I think
Sure.
that, John, I think they're referring to the category 3 through 5, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I will do that. So historically, for the body worn camera program, the appropriations have been for the purchase or lease of body worn cameras in law enforcement agencies. And a lot of correctional agencies, both sheriff's departments that were running jails and state correctional agencies came in, and under the condition that they function as law enforcement agencies, we allowed them to participate in the body worn camera program beginning in 2022, which is your grant year for most of you on the call, I believe. We created a new category specifically for state correctional agencies, so they would compete against each other. So category 1 is generally for law enforcement agencies. Generally, those are municipal agencies, sheriff's offices, state police, specialized agencies. All these are agencies that are publicly funded. We don't fund privately funded agencies. Category 2, as I said, is a special category for state correctional agencies. Then in 2022, recognizing that there was a lot of need out there for agencies that had implemented body-worn cameras, that had done full implementations across the agency or for all officers who have regular contact with the public, we wanted to support those agencies who were trying to meet challenges and making progress, and were willing to share that progress with other agencies. So we created 3 new categories. Category 1 is, again, the body-worn camera procurement for law enforcement agencies. Category 2 is body-worn camera procurement for state correctional agencies. Category 3 is generally intended for law enforcement agencies or prosecutors who are making progress in digital evidence management. So all the digital evidence that's being generated by cameras needs to be managed, as was commented by our colleague from New Jersey. There's a lot to that in terms of processing the data, tagging the data, managing the data, making sure the right entities, right individuals have access to the data, that the people who aren't supposed to have access to the data don't have access to it. And that's all being developed rather quickly. So we've funded agencies that are making progress in that. And the idea is that we'd work with them, we'd identify their best practices and share that with other agencies. So we learned from some of those agencies yesterday, we will today from the demonstration sites. The category 4 was specifically directed to prosecutors' agencies who were trying to leverage footage for making prosecutorial decisions. Again, it involves the transfer of data or the sharing of data in some cases between the local police departments and the prosecutors' offices, and then prosecutors making better use of that data to enhance the decision-making process. And then category 5 was essentially to support agencies who are using their own body-worn camera footage to improve their operations. That could be involved in improving training, could be involved in enhancing constitutional policing. So yesterday we heard from both LAPD, which is doing they're basically looking at their exemplary videos and using that both in academy training and in-service training in promoting officers through their own body-worn camera footage, how to do things like de-escalation, what are sort of exemplary practices in a variety of stressful conditions that officers may be under, or just what's good practice using their own body-worn camera footage. And then we heard about a more sophisticated project, I guess, technologically from the Rochester PD in concert with the Rochester Institute of Technology, in which they'll be using machine learning, natural language processing, and artificial intelligence to learn sort of again what the markers are of sort of good outcomes with body-worn cameras, what videos exemplify things like procedural justice, treating individuals with fairness, being informative, explaining why people are being stopped, and really, taking a look at the existing body-worn camera footage to understand what exemplary practices are, and then also understand what some of the markers are of when things might go wrong, when things might escalate to use of force, comparing it to similar situations where things didn't escalate into use of force. So they'd be, I think the term that they use in the Rochester presentation was pair and compare. So they look at similarly situated events. Why did one turn out well and the other not turn out well? Those are the types of applications we're looking for under categories 3, 4, and 5. In the upcoming announcement, we've funded additional agencies under those categories. So we're really there, rather than just purchasing the body-worn cameras and developing policy, implementing those body-worn cameras in a holistic way. We're looking really to move the field forward and learn from each other and learn from the agencies that receives those demonstration awards.
Thank you, John. I do see we've had a couple other people join, so I will just welcome everybody. This is an opportunity in our open office hour for you all to ask questions of your state policy advisors regarding your grant requirements, supporting your other administrative questions you might have. In the chat, if you are able to go to the chat, we have put in a couple resources already that you may have been looking for around, finances, performance metrics, or how to start just grant administration. We do have a new question that has come into the chat from Colorado State Police. It says, hello, we've received a grant for a port of entry division and have purchased cameras. However, the licenses and data storage is being paid for by the State Patrol in conjunction with their vendor agreement. We might be interested in purchasing updated camera clips, but otherwise we don't think we can spend the funds as awarded. Is it best to return the funds now so another agency might be able to use the funds?
I think that's a good question. I think we really need to know the particulars of the situation. We recognize that right now, more states are stepping forward with funding. So there is a potential, depending on the circumstances, that you may be able to use those state funds for matching, and really we'll have to look at the particular situations there. Unfortunately, when you give the money back to us, that may be redirected at future dates, but we don't have the option of giving the money to another agency. Although, if you do have partners, sometimes when we have partnership agencies, one agency applies on behalf of itself and other entities, maybe a sheriff's department applying for itself, and some of the municipal departments, if one municipal department can't get the body worn cameras, if they're already purchased the body worn cameras, we try to be flexible and work with the primary grantee to make sure those funds are expended. So I don't know that I can answer that question definitively without knowing more. And if you're Colorado, that would be, Wei would be your state policy advisor. So Wei and I can work with you on assessing your situation and seeing what we can do.
Thank you, John. Other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or come off mute or show your video. We are here to answer them all.
For those of you who are looking to reapply, we intend right now for 2024 coming grant season. The solicitation should go out in the spring. We do intend to adhere pretty closely to the categories.
We do have another question. I know you answered this before, John, but when will new awards be announced?
Sure. Yeah. Generally, all BJA awards are usually announced towards the end of the fiscal year. So that should be September. Sometimes they withhold the announcement for particular events. So I don't really have control over that. But by and large, most awards should be announced by the end of the fiscal year, which is September 30th.
I have another question to the host that just came in, and John, this one might actually be one for you, or feel free for anybody else to answer. Will the annual meeting continue to be in virtual?
Well, right now, yeah, we're planning the meetings to be virtual. Now, this is for the 2022 grantees. This is your annual meeting, the one that we expect you to attend. You're always welcome to attend the meetings in the future, but right now the plan is to continue making these virtual meetings. So we don't see that we don't see that changing for the fiscal 2024 grant season. But regardless of that, you guys are not required to attend that meeting, although you're always welcome. As was mentioned, I think it's a great learning experience. We cover a lot of topics, including those that are geared towards agencies with established body-worn camera programs, not just startup agencies.
Another question that just came in, I have often missed the grant reporting dates. Is there a calendar of reporting dates that I can easily find?
Yes, when you sign into Just Grants, go to performance reporting, performance management, and the dates will be on there.
And we'll be covering that in the performance management presentation that takes place tomorrow at noon.
This isn't a question in the chat, but I actually just thought about this. I know a couple of our sites have asked some of our site teams along the way, what is the best way to navigate or learn how to use Just Grants? I know it's something that many struggle with, but is there a guidebook anywhere, or we have a resource, maybe we could put that in the chat?
I think the best thing to do is to go to the Justice Grants web link that I posted in the chat. It's, when you go to the page, it's laid out in pretty straightforward format. I know there is a lot of information there, so you may have to wade through that. And I know that, that people have struggled with Just Grants. We use it on our end. We don't see exactly what you see, but it is improving and some of the kinks are getting worked out. So I think that's the best place to go. As I said, it's a pretty involved system, many different features, but look at that website. And I think some of the videos are pretty useful because it really gives you a hands-on look at how to walk through various procedures like submitting a grant, submitting your progress report, so forth and so on.
Maybe Gerardo or Wei or Gail, are there questions you're often asked or approached by from the sites that you might be helpful for anyone here on the call that maybe they haven't thought of, or just, other resources that you often share with everyone?
Well, I always tell my grantees for their performance reporting, not to add like NAs or just leave something blank. I always tell them to highlight their projects because either somebody above us or a member of Congress or whomever can see their reporting, and that's what they're looking at, whatever they submit to us.
That's a really good one, Gerardo. As I'm reviewing the performance reports, sometimes people are putting NA for the goals that were achieved for that reporting period, and that doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't really tell me if the funds being used or if you guys need help or anything like that. So yeah, you're definitely right on that. You hit the nail on the head. I have often had to reach back out and send them back to get them revised, and we need more information. It's not just a quick click through. We want some details. That would be great.
Yes, if they haven't completed something, just say, we're having issues trying to complete this. Just let us know what's going on.
Another question, can you explain the no-cost extension process?
Let me take first stab at that, and then Gerardo and Wei and Gail can weigh in. So no-cost extension is essentially what it is, what sounds like. You would submit a request to extend the grant period. Right now, it's limited to a one-year extension, but there may be reasons, including those that you might have shared in your progress report, why you were delayed in starting up your program. I know on the call the other day with LAPD, they were delayed in starting up their program, their demonstration program in this case, because they had to await a city council vote to approve the grant acceptance and to approve the matching funds. So we recognize that that's sometimes the case, with supply chain issues that we've all experienced over the last year. We know that some agencies had to delay the start of their grant or had to prolong their grant and ask for no-cost extensions because there was delay in them receiving their body-worn cameras. So we recognize that things don't always go as planned, that we live in the real world. And so providing us with a justification for an extension, generally we limit it to a year. We review those, and I think in general, we approve those in most instances. I don't know if Wei, Gerardo, Gail, if you want to weigh in with some other examples or anything else you want to add to what I said.
I was just going to add that a robust justification would be something that would be useful, because as we turn it into the director, they want to know what exactly was the issue. And as you said, John, sometimes it just happens with the funding being delayed, and that's fine. So that probably doesn't require a ton of justification, but for others, we would need more than just, we weren't able to get to this project in time. We would need what we call robust justification. Happy to send those out, like some guidance if we need that, to help you develop a robust justification narrative before we can submit it.
Yes, and the justification also is required to have a new project timeline with the new date.
Thank you all so much. Again, reach out to anybody that you need to hear on from the State Policy Advisors or John as well. So thank you, John. Thank you, Gerardo, Wei, and Gail for being on today. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.